Hello, hello, lovely people. I mean, I guess I have to do that. It's the first week of the year. So happy New Year's, folks. You know, I don't know. People wish some stuff to other people. I will wish you health and, having a beautiful year. I don't know. I think for 2025 sucks for many people from what I've read on social media, what I've seen during the holidays. So hopefully this year is going to be better. Do what makes sense for you. But yeah, I always wish health to people. It seems boring, but it's kind of like so important. So with that said, and we're close to I think we need to stop saying Happy New Year's after the first week. So we're still good. But yeah, first episode of the year. I'm really happy. I'm continuing to doing the DevRel show. As I told you, I have so many guests lined up, so that's going to be an interesting year. So it will just depend on my traveling schedule. But first episode of the year, it's episode 43. So we're continuing to talk about DevRel, having amazing guests, and today is no different. I have Brenna with me. How is life?
Oh, it's great. It's finally cooled down in Las Vegas where I live, and I'm just enjoying our winter wonderland here up here in the south.
Yeah. I hear you. I mean, we don't have the same kind of winter. I'm in Canada in the east side and Montreal. So yeah, we have like snow and it's freaking cold right now. So I don't really enjoy the cool down that we're having in Canada, but I understand from your point of view. Uh, it really makes sense. It really makes sense. Did you have time to disconnect a little bit during the holiday?
To sorry, to what?
Disconnect or just like take some time off?
Yeah, it was great. I'm really grateful for like my company's like respect for like family time. So like I had a really nice relaxing break. I got to work on some personal dev projects and hang out with my family, and it's always fun.
That's pretty cool. So, first question, usually, and now I had like multiple questions for you before my usual first question, which is, who are you? Tell us who you are.
Wow. I feel like I'm in a therapist office. Well, my name is you already know my name is Brenna Buuck. I work as a developer evangelist basically at MinIO, which is a object storage software company, mainly on-prem object storage, so an alternative to Amazon's S3 or Azure Blob Storage on-prem. I Before this role, I was basically a real data engineer. I worked full time, building pipeline and delivering clean data. And so I transitioned into this role because I really enjoy teaching and helping people learn, and data is one of my favorite subjects. So I'm really keyed well to this role because it's a couple of the things that I care about the most and have a lot to say about.
Yeah, no, love that. And we met, if I'm not wrong, I think it was like some KubeCon North America 2024. You were at the MinIO booth, and I was looking for guests for primarily it was for the Cube First Live, which was the live stream that I was doing at my previous company, Construct. Unfortunately, that didn't happen, but I was like, hey, you do developer relation. You should come on the DevRel show. And I really want to thank you for your patience because it was like a year and a half ago. You were scheduled 6 months ago, but I had like I got a new job, I had a last minute trip. I had to reschedule you. And I did the quote unquote mistake of like trying to schedule all my guests for the full year, which I learned the hard way. It's not the way to go because, life and schedule and stuff. So I was not able to reschedule you up to like January 2026. But thanks for being patient with me, and thanks for being on the show. I really appreciate that.
Yeah, I'm happy to. We're all busy, and in some ways, it's nice to have an idea of where you're going to be far in advance. I travel a lot for the role that I do, so I'm also a developer at heart, so change is part, of my life. It's in the fabric of what I do. So I just roll with punches. It is what it is.
No, that makes sense, and I like that. So one of the first thing I wanted to ask you, because when you introduce yourself, you say like, "Hey, I'm a developer advocate," and when you look at your LinkedIn, the title is different. You're a subject matter expert on databases and modern data lakes. And I know when you read the description, you understand that, like, yeah, okay, you're a SME or a matter expert, but most of the things you do are developer relations related. So can you tell us a little more about, like, maybe the title itself, like why that title,
Oh,
and your role actually, like what is your role?
well, to be frank, I didn't pick it. I just applied for it, but it is if when I was looking for developer advocate roles, it's really matched a lot of the things I actually want to do. Actually, I don't mind that we're calling a subject matter expert. I say developer advocate a lot of times because it gives people a better sense of what I do day to day, but also it's shorter on a name tag. like often, SME of data lakes and modern data or whatever it is. It's too long to fit on a placard. So it's shorter. It's more like explanation. I don't know. But I work under product marketing. I'm a real data engineer, and I spend my time writing blogs, making decks, going to speaking engagements, manning the booth, like where you met me, answering questions about our product, technical questions for people that walk by. Often you need to pair either like a person like me or like an FA, like a sales engineer or an FE, or whatever you guys call those people that do the sales engineering. You have to pair like a salesperson and a technical person in the booth. And I often stand in the place of sales engineers because I write code. I make demos. I package technical content for the marketing team. So but I work under product marketing. So anything that comes around in marketing around databases or data lake houses, I typically take a look at and check for technical accuracy, especially now in the time of AI where a lot of things move really fast. Like sometimes content gets generated that's trying a nice word. I don't know, like not complete, I guess, or inaccurate, or just like hallucinated. Like that happens a lot with. I think. Well, I'm probably with all content, but I especially deal with technical content. So sometimes ChatGPT or Claude will envision a future or a reality that doesn't actually exist, and so I have to go through stuff and make sure that it makes sense. And so for everyone, that anyone else writes. So I write, but I also review. I don't know. Does that answer your question? So I do the role of a developer advocate. I have a different title. I'm not mad at it. I mean, does a subject matter expert also describes what my expertise is. But it's harder for people to visualize. So what I do day to day, unless I say developer advocate. So they're fine with us putting whatever we want on our business.
It makes sense. It makes total sense, and I'm asking that just for the sake of having a discussion about it, and for people listening. But also, I think anyway, a developer advocate should be a subject matter expert about their own technology, their own products. So that's kind of that works. But when I've seen people with that title, usually they were engineers, principal engineers, or I forgot what's even the other title after that, but the main resources in the engineering team about a specific topic or a specific technology. So it's why I was curious about oh, are you like really like just like the top expert in your company about that specific topic, or is it like another way, or which could be true also, but like is it also another way to like say, oh, you're a developer advocate too, but like you just have a different title? So your explanation was pretty good about that. I was just curious about that, and I assume maybe people joining us live or watching your recording may had also the same answer, because on the thumbnail of the video I put like subject matter expert and the full title that was written on LinkedIn actually. So
No, our MinIO company I work for has a history of being engineering led, and so I do see that history written in the title that I have. I'm the only prior we hired an internal data engineer like a year ago, but prior to that I was the only data engineer at the company. So I do claim to have subject matter expertise in data engineering, and so and specifically for data lakes and databases. So yes, and also a developer advocate if it's easier for people to visualize what I do day to day than just to say that I know stuff, which is
No, but I like that, and it's great that you're saying that too, because when I started in DevRel, like nobody known about that, nobody known about a developer advocate. Actually, we were not even called that. We're called technical evangelist, and people didn't know what it was. It was like people were asking me like, "Are you into church or something?" And I'm like, "No, I work in tech." And now that you're saying that, like, oh, when I say to people that like I use the title developer advocate, people recognize and understand what I do. It's a great sign that like the industry understand a lot more developer relation and see also hopefully those role as something important for the business. So very happy to hear that.
I also recognize that change and that shift between making developer advocates or developer evangelists or whatever you want to call them more important, like prominent roles for business, because especially for software, people are recognizing that you have to speak to developers first. Like, we don't sell teddy bears or like, widgets, or we're not going to ever not be technical. So we hear that a lot, especially in marketing, like, oh, is this too technical? Is this going to like, make people sit down too long and read it, or is it like too in depth? Like everybody that buys technical software has a degree of technical aptitude. They may not be in their job title today, but I have sat in as a data engineer on buying decisions, and everybody in that room, from like chief data officer to the business analytics folks, have a technical background. So to argue that we need to dumb things down or make things salesy when we're talking about selling technical software, I feel like misses the mark on who our audience is for who's actually buying our product, right?
Yeah,
that's what I think. I think it's so important. I think and we're getting, you don't want to alienate your buyers. Yeah. And the reality is that, I am a developer, so I know what that like personality type is, I guess. And I can tell you that it doesn't take me long to figure out if you don't know what you're talking about. You know what I mean? So like if I read an article or I see a video or I look at docs, and I can instantly tell if it's not, if it's just fluff, or if it doesn't make any sense, or if it's just sales speak. I want to get, I'll skip over that to find what it matters to me as a developer at which is actually code, or in-depth docs, or like an explanation of what exactly I'm trying to do. So I think that this role is really important to find that deeper level of involvement with software customer base. That's what I think.
Yeah, no, and yeah, I agree totally. I always say that like if you want to like just talking about developer relation itself. If you want to be successful as a developer advocate, no matter your title, if your job is to talk to a developer audience, you need to be credible. You need to know what you're talking about. So it's exactly as you said. Like I think it makes sense. You don't have to dumb down things, and it may depends on the product, though. I mean, like MinIO is for technical people basically only from my knowledge of the product. I mean, it may be a little bit different when I'm thinking about my own product, TinyMC right now, which is like, yes, it's for developers because they're going to integrate a rich text editor or WYSIWYG within their application they're building. So it's a product for developers. But in my case, once the developer implements the product TinyMC within their own product, it's the end users that may not be technical who's going to use it, because our product is targeted to developer to implement it. But the usage of the product at the end, once it's implemented, it's for anybody who need to create rich text content. So in that case, the approach is a little bit different, but not for me as a developer advocate, because I'm not talking necessarily to the buyer or the end users. I'm talking to the developer who implement my solution. So I totally agree about that. And speaking about MinIO, would you like to just talk a little bit about, like, the product and the company? Because this is where I know you from my past life in like the cloud native and Kubernetes at KubeFirst. We were using MinIO for a local installation, local flavor. So if you would like to just talk a little bit about that for people that do not know the company or the product.
Sure. Like I said, I did my little intro. That's kind of a rehashing, but MinIO is basically on-prem S3. So it's truly S3 native. There's no metadata gateway. There's no other protocols. We don't do fly on block. We don't do anything else but S3 on-prem. And so we have more than 2 billion Docker pulls worldwide. They like to say that Candy Crush has 5 billion, the B, so we're not that far off of Candy Crush.
That's crazy, though.
Yeah, we're really proud of like the amount of developer support that we've gotten from the beginning. So the origin of MinIO is an open source code base, but in the last few years we've implemented and developed an enterprise version of the software. So we'll always have the community edition available for anyone. It's distributed under a GDPR license, but the enterprise version has different and extra features. Like console, for example. We also introduced something that's really cool, which I'll hopefully have time to demo today, which is we've embedded the Iceberg catalog API within our object storage. And a couple of other cool stuff coming down the line. And we also have stuff for in the enterprise version for managing enterprise software, like a key manager, extra like stuff like encryption. So hopefully everyone on the call knows who we are. If you're in the data space, you'll probably know who, and you have on-prem or local installations, you've heard of us. But that's what MinIO is.
Sounds good. And prior to your role, you've been at MinIO for a little more than 2 years now. Prior to that, you were a developer evangelist at StreamSets. Would you like to talk a little bit about that role?
Yeah, so StreamSets is really cool. It is or was a software company that created like an ETL tool, a visual ETL tool, similar to like a no-code, low-code ETL tool, similar to Talend or other ETL tools around there. But it had this ability to differentiate. It had this ability to do something called data drift. So it could detect and remediate data drift. So that's what happens when like say you have this happens a lot in data engineering where you have a destination, say at a database that has its field type is a date or something, and something happens at the input level that changes that. So maybe instead of a date, they type out in words February 21st 2026, and then in full letter English letters, and so that'll break a pipeline, right, with the database. The end state is expecting a date, and you send a varchar or a string that can often just kill a pipeline. And it's really annoying because it happens a lot, and it seems minor, and then people don't downstream, your data customers don't always know why things like that don't work. So StreamSets is cool because you could detect that and either skip that, set up whatever kind of remediation you wanted. You could skip it. You could have some kind of cleaning step that kicked off when that kind of weird string was detected to fix it and send it off as a date. You could kill a pipeline completely if you wanted to. There's a lot of remediation steps that you could automate in your pipelines that made them more durable. That is really cool. It's a really cool company. I really liked working there. But they were acquired by IBM.
Oh, okay.
Towards the tail end of when I was working there. And so, it happens,
Yeah. Yeah, there's always a lot of surprise with acquisition. So I understand that.
And there was as like I said, change is inevitable, and especially when you're working in a startup, that kind of change is always on the table. And it's like one of the best case scenarios, right? You either acquire or you IPO, and so it's fine. I wasn't let go or anything. But I saw kind of when you can, when the train's heading somewhere and you are on the train and you notice an impending cliff or something, and you're like, I better take this exit. It was that kind of thing. So I was just like, I don't know. I see that they already have a marketing team and they already have developer advocates, and the roles I do are covered. So I think maybe, but I really enjoyed working there, and everyone was super nice, and I learned so much because prior to that I was a real data engineer, and so coming into marketing I was learning all kinds of words, like MQLs and I don't know, B2B, all the stuff wasn't familiar with before. It's definitely a new world for me, and that role really prepared me for the career that I have now. And I will always be grateful for the people that took a risk in hiring me. I feel like took a risk in hiring me for a data engineer for a marketing role that I'd never done before. So especially my boss there was Sean Anderson. He's an incredible product manager, and I just feel like he took me under his mentorship wing, and I just learned a ton. He was amazing, or is amazing.
That's great. That's great.
It was really, really foundational for me, and I learned a lot, and I loved the product. So I feel like everybody, especially low code, no code tools help bring in people that aren't, I'm thinking also of the company that you're working for, I guess, because these types of tools bring in, they democratize data engineering, which is so important for bringing SMEs like myself, I guess, into actually building pipeline. It's not from the people that know the most about the data. And so having them be able to be instrumental in actually moving it around is really key to making data pipeline that don't break, right? If you know the data the best, you should be the one actively, making the pipeline. You shouldn't have to send it off to people that have to ask you questions about, is this field supposed to be, whatever kind of questions that they have for you about that. So I really think those tools are cool, and I loved working there, and I love learning about developer evangelism or develop whatever you want to call it, this type of role.
Yeah.
Like I loved same as my role now. I still really enjoy writing code, and I love like relaying information to people. So it was that I really came into my own, I feel like, in that role, and I brought all that experience to this one. So I'm really stoked. Seemed like a really good decision. I was like very nervous transitioning from real engineering to this type of role, as I'm sure a lot of your listeners are data developer advocates, so I'm sure they have that similar. They came from engineering because I don't know. It's different, like it's.
This.
And I didn't know anything about marketing, so it's strange making that transition. So
how the question about that then, because you were engineers before and you moved to like a role in developer relations. So how did that happen, or why did you move from like a more like engineer role to a more engineer centric role to like now doing developer advocacy or developer evangelism? I like to ask that question for people that most of us transition, like rarely someone like our first job were developer advocates or developer relation. Most of us like were software developer engineers before, and we moved to developer relations. So I really love to ask that question because everybody has like a different story. So what's your story there?
Yeah, well, so like I said, I love data and I love teaching, and so this really fits. Like around the time that I started looking for that StreamSets role and that first developer advocate role, I was working in engineering, right? And I was asked by my boss to make like a 5-year plan. It's kind of like those kind of bullshit things. Oh, can I swear? I'm sorry.
Yeah, you can totally on that show. It's fine.
Those silly, career goal things, but I actually took it seriously. And one of the questions was something like where do you, like, what in your past, like, career so far have you found the most fulfilling? Like, what about, or what specific role or specific, project or whatever in your former roles you find most fulfilling? And I really thought about it, and I feel like I was most fulfilled at that time by my experience. I went to grad school for political science.
Okay.
I know I don't have a traditional technical background. I taught myself how to code, which is another reason why I love no code, low code solutions, because it helps people like me get into technology where they, ease them into coding, which is really super fun. But anyways, I taught myself, I found most fulfilling teaching undergrads political science, which is what I majored in grad school and in undergrad. So I was like, what can I do in my career to like have all this experience in data? Like, I don't want to, like, I love the puzzle solving element of data engineering. I love like learning new things all the time. I don't want to just discard all this experience. But how can I bring in more of this, like what I found fulfilling, which was imparting knowledge to others, like being of service, right? And I just like Googled that exact question, and like it came up with like you could like be a mentor, you can like be in engineering leadership, and I was like, and then it was like, or you can be a developer advocate. So I was like, wow, I should see what that's like. I applied for one job. Sean Anderson, the boss that I just mentioned, called me the next day for an interview, and I got the job the next week. And then just like from there, like I feel like it was like, I don't want to like throw it around too much, but I think it was like a little bit of fate. You know what I mean? Like I was like, what, like I went from day one Googling like how do I bring in education and engineering together, to like having a job doing exactly that and being like the perfect role for me. Do you know what I mean? Like, love this stuff. Like I love data, and I love teaching people things. And so far, all of this has just it's been like fun every day. You know, I don't, I'm not on pager duty anymore. No one's upset with me. So like the thing about data engineering, especially when like a enterprise data engineer, like a real one, is that nobody ever talks to you unless something's broken. You know, like no one ever was like, hey, you're doing a great job, Brenna. The best thing I got was like sometimes my PRs would be approved, no comments. And I'd be like, yes, I'm doing like somebody thinks I'm doing a good job. But like nobody ever like, no, I don't get talked to. I like filled out tickets, and that was kind of like, you know, kind of what I did day to day. Whenever I tried to like reach out to like ask business users, like, hey, what are you going to use this report for? Like, what do you really like? What do you really need? Like, I saw what you asked for, but like, can you like?
Yeah.
I would like kind of got shut down, or like, I don't have time for that. Just give me what I asked. You know, like, and I just felt. Now I get to talk to people like you and everyone that comes to the booth, and people tell me in marketing, especially, they'll tell you you're doing a good job all the time. Like, like, you know, I feel like I'm a free elf, you know, like I'm out in the world. Like I do some travel. Like I get to talk to people face to face. Like,
yep.
How cool is that? Like they let me out into the world. So it's way better than engineering. So for a certain kind of a person, right? You have to be kind of outgoing. But I do love it a lot, and I still write code. And if it breaks, it's not a big deal. I'm like, oh, I'll fix that. You know, they make changes, or like, you know, like there's a new library or stuff gets unsupported. Like I'll do that later. Like I'll add it to my backlog, and I'll get to it in a couple weeks. No one's like waking me up at 3 a.m.
Yeah, there's no production code getting on fire. Yeah, I do not miss that part of like working on product. Like at one company, we had a product that people were using strictly between 2 and 4 a.m. So yeah, I was the only, and it was a really small company that like we created a product. So and I was the most senior one, which means that like I was the one always on call for those things. And we had so many bugs that like they were always waking me up at like 2, 3 a.m. I really do not miss that at all.
That'll burn you out, and you know, and it's not fun. So I don't miss that at all. Like people are nice to me now, you know. So
yeah. I mean, let me tell you a story. It depends where you work and how people like the company you work for, the product you work for. Because my first job as a developer advocate was at Microsoft, and it was during the Ballmer era. If you watch the show, you already heard me tell that story a couple of times. But there was during the like whether you like Microsoft or not, right now they're so much better and so much more friendlier than they used to be. And you may disagree with that, but like in the past when I started to work there, at first when they approached me, I said no 1 or 2 times because I didn't want to go there. But actually they were like, no, Fred, someone like you, like who talk open source, who is in the open source community, who is not like a typical Microsoft person. So my audience were open source developers, but I was working for Microsoft during a time where Microsoft was not playing well at all with open source. So people didn't like me. Some people liked me, but there are some people that didn't like me. There's like 2 people that refused to shake my hand because I was working at Microsoft. So just a small warning, most of the time people like you, but it depends on so many factors. It's not always the case, but in my case, I miss coding though. I still code part of the role, but I miss like being a developer full time. But when I put this in a scale of like, oh, do I prefer being a developer advocate or being like an engineer or software developer full time? I still prefer doing DevRel. It's still technical. I still code, but like also miss a little bit like coding 8 hours a day, which I cannot do anymore because like I have so many other things to do with that role. But I still love like being a dev role. So
I like I miss that. I mean I don't miss it, and I do miss it because of that focus that you can that like flow state that you could get into. You know, like I miss that element. I miss problem solving. like something really deep, like working on something for a long time, it's breaking, and then like you go take a shower or something, and you're like, oh shit, that's what it that's what it is. Like that's gonna fix it. And then like, you know, that's kind of fun. I don't work on, I do still code, but it's like it's demos, you know, it's I can make the data whatever I want it to be, and I usually make it easy. So it's not, you know, like it's not
makes sense. Yeah. Speaking of oh sorry.
Oh no, go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say, speaking of demo, I think it would be a great time now to, because you know we could talk forever because we're being paid to talk, but that could be a good time to move to the demo portion of the show, which I'm really looking forward to it because you're going to talk about data lakes, which is something I do not know about at all. I know nothing about it, so I'm looking forward to what you're going to talk about today.
All right, I'm going to give you we don't have like that much time, so I'm going to give you like the condensed version of the slide deck, and then I'll show you some code. How about that?
Wonderful. Sounds good to me.
All right, so let me just share my screen. Okay, so I want to just, let's see, just shoot this one. Move this over so you guys don't. Oh, here's my. Okay, hold on. You know what? Maybe I'll just. Can you see? What do you see? My deck?
Not anymore. You just. I used to see your deck, but you removed the screen sharing.
Right. Sorry.
That's fine. Technology is hard.
I use this.
That's always what I say.
Yeah. Okay. How about that? Is that better? Can you see now?
Yeah. Still seeing the slide now.
Okay. Cool. So I'm just going to give you the compressed version of it. I'm not going to go through all these stuff, but the main point about this is that the most important data that you have or organizations have is not just structured data like you see XML, JSON, or even the new open table formats like Iceberg and Delta Lake. Often it's unstructured, or like videos, images, things like that. And so there's a really need to bridge this gap between these different types of formats of data and the actual needs for the workflows that people are actually doing, right? So we really, as an organization, and well, actually, I feel like as a data community, has really rallied around Iceberg as the open table format. So this is a data lakehouse table format. It's essentially, so I'm not, like I'm used to talking to data lake folks, so this is like an interesting, but Apache Iceberg is an Apache project where the Parquet files are stored alongside metadata that turn a typical or traditional data lake into a data lake house. So the Iceberg metadata is actually what gives you the really cool things like time travel and schema evolution. So remember I was talking about how StreamSets could detect data drift. Like, so if your data types are different, Iceberg has this type of intelligent design in its foundation. So for example, if your data coming in changes schema, so if it's an int, it was formerly an int and now it's a var, it will just add a new column and move on. So you don't have broken pipelines. You have like this is actually the I believe the future of data, because it makes our jobs as data engineers much easier. And as a whole, that's an accepted view in data engineering.
Okay.
This is a description about how unstructured and structured work together. This is why people want to build data lake houses on-prem, because obviously we're at MinIO is an on-prem S3 compatible object storage, which is in and of itself just your data lake. But I always like this. It's right here. This is like the money shot, I guess, where you see where It's about 10 petabytes of data, where it becomes much more cost effective to store your data on-prem than it is in the cloud. And this is super hot data. So this data that gets a lot of transactions, real data lake, lakehouse transactions. I want to talk about the thing. This is a data lakehouse diagram where you have the query engines, then an Iceberg catalog, which is necessary to manage that metadata that I was discussing when I described Iceberg to you. And then we have all the stuff in object storage. So this is what a typical lakehouse architecture looks like from 1,000 feet up, right? You have interoperable query engines. You have to have a catalog of some kind. There's different kinds of catalogs. The Iceberg catalog in it of itself, the REST catalog, is also an Apache project. So this is open source and available for everyone. It's a REST API. So a lot of people have implemented enterprise versions of this, like Polaris, which is Snowflake project. That is open source now, but also Project Nessie, which is Dremio's version of this. But all of these are external catalogs that require a separate database. Like, so you have to have the whole promise of a data lakehouse is that you're moving away from transactional or traditional databases, but all external Iceberg catalogs require you to have a transactional database like MySQL or Postgres attached to it for managing the metadata. So it's like, move into the future, no more databases, but except for this one that you have to have for. And so I have like a deck on that, like a slide deck, which is, so here's like the traditional or like current Iceberg external catalog, where you have your object storage layer, whatever it is, it's S3, it's MinIO. Then you have your metadata database for your Iceberg catalog. And then you have the catalog service, whatever it is. If it's Hive, is it Polaris, is it Nessie, is it Gravitino, whatever it is. It has to have a separate database, but our version is just and your object storage with your built-in catalog service. So these compress down, and then it's just that. So it makes it easier to have a lake house, right? That's the point. That's why we did this part. This is the cool new feature that we've introduced called AIStor tables. S3 has a version, Amazon has a version of it's called S3 tables, but obviously it's cloud-based. This is embedded Iceberg catalog on-prem. We don't charge you. So obviously every time you have a special bucket in AWS, you get special bucket charges, right? There's no extra or additional charge for using this API. It's just the same we charge for data under management. So a standard for any of the additional features we have. You don't charge for seats, you don't charge for API calls, and that's why we can get to this type of graph where we show how much cheaper it is over time, right? Because if you've got an expensive tier bucket, because you want to have a simplified.
Goes fast.
What?
That goes fast.
Yeah, exactly. Your cloud spend gets up in a way, right? All right, cool. So I'll show you my demo now that I've explained, hopefully, what I'm trying to show you.
That was good. That was perfect. Yeah, thanks for I'm for sure some people listening didn't need that part, but that was good for me because I'm I know what is a data lake, but I never worked with it, never used it, so I don't have that knowledge. So that was perfect intro.
Okay.
Love it.
Okay, good. All right, so I'm going to show you a Pi Iceberg script. I like Pi Iceberg because I have been personally victimized by Spark in the past, and Pi Iceberg doesn't require you to have a JVM, so it won't hurt your feelings like Spark does. But you can use this with Spark or Trino or whatever. I have the other notebooks here if that's your flavor of query engine. But this is just so this is connecting to. I'll just go into it. So this is a demo of AIStor tables, which is again the embedded Iceberg catalog API into object storage, so that you don't need a separate metadata database to maintain your Iceberg catalog. You have to have an Iceberg catalog if you want to have an Iceberg. Data lake, mandatory. So the question is, what kind of Iceberg catalog do you want? We love all types of Iceberg. You can always use AIStor for regular data lakes, where you use Polaris or Hive and have your stack like that, totally fine. It works just fine. But if especially building on-prem, the really big problem with having an additional service, so if you have a cloud stack, let me just let the dog.
Girl wants to go out, Orion.
If you got a cloud stack, it's really easy to spin up a Postgres warehouse, like whatever. You just hit a button and you have a cloud-based Postgres warehouse stood up. The problem is when you build on-prem, then you have to, maybe you're hiring a DBA and then you're managing that resource, and those disks have to be separate, and then you have to think about security and what about backups and restore for your on-prem database. So you get complexity adds on complexity, right? When you're actually managing your infrastructure. So if you can reduce it down to one thing that you're having to manage, then it's better. And AIStor, AIStor tables, actually, I'll just say that the catalog itself inherits all of the durability of AIStor. So everything people come to love about AIStor, strict consistency and active replication, all that applies to the catalog in a way that has never happened before, right? Because catalog metadata is usually a transactional database.
Mm-hmm.
We think about replication in terms of database talk instead of object storage talk. Does that make sense? I mean, hopefully that makes sense. Let me show you what this is. So I'm gonna pip install Apache Iceberg, which is one of my faves, and Boto 3. I'm gonna import some utilities for this one, the rest of these libraries. So this should be, this type of configuration should be sort of familiar with anyone who's familiar with AIStor. The only difference is now you have a catalog URL, right? Your host, your warehouse. So this one, I guess, is also new. But all this other stuff is just regular MinIO stuff. We create a warehouse, so that's the first step. So, the other thing is, we made the architecture. So AWS tables, which is sort of we always strive to be as closely lockstep with AWS because we fully support the S3 API. The way they did this, what they did their tables is a little bit different. We do warehouse and then the architecture and then namespace and then tables, whereas they have a different hierarchy, but it's the same. It's functionally the same. We just feel like this is more familiar to people that are more familiar with traditional databases. So if you're a database engineer, or a data engineer, somebody who's actually building or getting their fingers in this code, it's an API. You're more familiar with these terms than the ones that AWS shows. But it's the same function. So you make a warehouse, and then you initialize Apache Iceberg, and then you make a namespace. This one already has one. And I just want to show you, this one is listing all the namespaces that I have. So after this point, really, we're just dealing with the Iceberg REST catalog. So everything under here is not ours. It's an open source REST API. Somewhere into there that we support the S3 API. This is an API for developers who are developing data lakehouses, right? So this is not ours. This is just the API, right? So we'll create a namespace. So properties are cool in data lakehouses because you get to say things like this is only for sales to read, or this one is read only for engineering, or you can set different security or user level permissions in your properties. We'll make a table called employees. I'm just going to show you, which is so I'm going to hard code. So these are examples of these strings. I'm going to hard code these S3 locations. So this is a whole S3 URL in real life. Again, I make the demo so I can make them however I want to. But in real life, you probably will have this not be hard coded, but actually be a vector or something with the S3 location. So this S3 location, let's say it points to a bucket in MinIO, and let's say in production, it's actually a vector, right? Where you have something there for your AI model or something. So it's pointing to an actual location in AIStor, but it's not hard coded in, because that's obviously ridiculous, right? I mean, you're using a vector database to find images or pictures or videos or something like that. Or in this case, PDFs and things that nature. So we'll list all the tables. I made a bunch of tables. And then again, this is hard coded, but like imagine these are the vectors actually. Okay. So
that's a demo. That's fine.
Yes. Okay. So I made 5 employee records. I'm going to have dupes, but it's just to show you how easy it is to add more records to your table. This is not ours. This is just the REST API, but it's cool. Like the part that we did is like up here where you can connect to it, and it's all right there. Everything's there. So the point of showing the hard-coded S3 locations is to say that you could have, let me just show you an example of the query. You could have a table that has a structured table, an Iceberg table that has access to unstructured S3 locations. So your unstructured data and your structured data can actually be findable in the same location, right? Because your unstructured Iceberg tables are in the same place as your contracts, as your resumes, as your videos, as your whatever you have in object storage. Object storage in itself, anything can be an object, right? But now with the catalog embedded, your structured data and your unstructured data can come together in like a really fast and important way, especially for agentic AI or human AI. This could be an agent. This could be a person that's running a model, but everything's at their fingertips. Everything is all in one spot. Does that make sense?
No, makes sense.
I don't know how much time I have, but this is different patterns of the same thing. So this is another.
You have as much or as little time as you want. As long as you're still having fun demoing, you're good to go. I told you it's a really laid back show. If you're like, Fred, I'm tired of talking about this, and we're good, we're done. So it's really for you.
Basically, this is just the rest of this is just different. Flavors of the same thing, where you have structured data, which is Iceberg, which is Parquet plus metadata, and then you have locations to unstructured data, PDFs, music files, whatever objects you want. You can finally pull it all together, so that you could give this Dana and she could click on this link maybe, or this vector, or whatever it is that you've embedded into this into your Iceberg catalog, or sorry, your Iceberg table. And they'll have it all at their fingertips. So imagine this is being served up as like a query in a internal HR tool or something. So they can see all their records in one spot, or it's an agent and Dana is trying to figure out if she did her training this year or whatever. It's all available to you. All your internal documents in one spot, organized in the way that's most sensible. So anyways, that's AIStor tables. That's AIStor in general. I guess that's all I have to show. Do you have any questions?
No, that was pretty clear. Every time I have a guest to talk about data, I kind of miss like playing more with data. When I was building software full time, it was always in smaller company. It was not even called startup at the time on that whole, but like it was in smaller companies, and we didn't have DBA. It was like developer were doing everything. So I was usually the one like building the database, thinking about the schema and doing that part. And I kind of miss that. So every time I have someone talking about like data on the show, I'm like, oh, I miss like being able to think about like the architecture of this and like the schema of like how I'm gonna store that data and how it's going to be efficient and how it's going to be useful for the developer, but also useful for like the people who's going to consume the data. So no, great. And always a fan. Like I'm an open source person, so I love also when demo is like part of like, oh, we have that product. There's a part that is like hey, charge for us. There's another part that is free. There's a part of open source. Like it's a great mix. So no, great demo. That was super useful. will not consider myself a data lake expert after your demo, though, but it's good enough for me to know a little more what people are talking about when they talk about data lakes, and having a great preview also about like Iceberg and the new MinIO product. So thanks a lot for the demo.
Yeah, I'm always happy to talk about this stuff. I think data lakes are so cool. Like I said, I really think that they, just as a data engineer perspective, like I'll take off my MinIO hat, that they're the future of architecture. Like the largest data lake houses in the world are running on the coolest AI stuff that you've heard of. Like,
Yeah.
you know, that's just facts. Like, so it's really exciting, and I think Iceberg especially has made this process much easier for deep analytics. Like people forget they're like AI is first, and we don't need analytics, or like moving around columns and like cleaning up data. But that clean data, vast amounts of clean data, asterisk clean data, is really critical for AI initiatives to work. So all this is like fits together like a puzzle piece. I think it's just so cool. So.
Love it. So that brings us to the end of the show. I love your demo, but my cat was not impressed. I guess he slept the old time.
I'll work on it. I have a dog, so I feel like I've demoed to the wrong audience. I got the wrong. I have a dog.
No, he's just a slacker. Sometimes he's going to join some meeting. Sometimes he just don't want to. But he's often in the background of the show or my meetings. So yeah, no. Thanks a lot for. Sorry,
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Well, I was just wondering what his name was or her name.
It's Tells.
Tells.
Yeah, and the story behind, I got him. It's a male. I got him from a shelter, and unfortunately, when he arrived, he had a beginning of a rough life. So his tail were like all screwed up. Like he got on the fight or got stuck somewhere. So when the shelter took him in, they went to the vet and they had to cut part of the tail. So now he's a cat, but like his tail is like this. So I guess it looks like he had multiple tails. It's kind of like sad, but at the same time fun-ish story because this is where his name's coming from, and I just kept the name. But he is lovely. He's a little bit like a dog, like always happy to see me, following me around a little bit the house. He has his cat moments where he's independent, but he's not like the usual independent cat who does not care that much about you. This one is just cuddly and he'd like to spend time with me. But he's part of the show quite often. So yeah, thanks for being a guest. And thanks for your time. Happy to have a discussion with you. That was really interesting. Your demo was great, and also want to thank everybody that were listening live, but also people who's going to watch the recording after. And we will see you, and I will see you actually in 2 weeks for the next episode of the DevRel Show.
Okay, cool.
Bye, everybody.